actually talk about the griefheart project, you kind of have to know the story behind why I started it. So a year ago this month, my son died by suicide. He suffered from depression and addiction. And I tell you, nothing in your whole life prepares you for losing a child. And nothing prepares you for losing a child by pain. It's been a very, very difficult journey. And I gotta figure out how I'm gonna live. And I gotta figure out how I'm gonna go forward. But one thing I noticed is when my child was suffering from mental health issues and addiction, nobody wanted to talk about it. I didn't get a lot of emotional support. And after he died, the memorial service was great. And after that, nobody wanted me to say Charles's name. They didn't want to talk about it because it was awkward, but there was also this other element, and it was shame. Because I would talk about him, and then I would kind of see people, a couple of people did this, like, oh, I don't want to hear anymore. Like, I don't want to be exposed to your grief. Well, and then other people would come up to me and they would say, my uncle died by suicide, or my father, and they would whisper it. So people carry a lot of shame when it comes to suicide. I am not ashamed of my son, and I didn't feel that way because he suffered from illnesses. Depression and addiction are illnesses. And he suffered in ways I can't imagine. And in reading his rap diary, he was a rap artist, and he was an accomplished rap artist. I saw how many times he felt suicidal. If you met Charles, you would have never guessed he suffered from depression. He was one of the most popular kids in school, and he was one of the funniest kids in school. And he won an award for a stand-up monologue in Utah for the whole state. Teenagers are masters at covering up their depression. Why is that? 1, the shame. 2, the stigma. And what is that? What does that do to our families? That kind of not talking about anything creates more of a culture where children and youth will take their lives instead of telling you that they hurt and when they need help. So I knew what I needed to do. And I decided I was going to honor my son. So the first thing I did is I wrote a newspaper article for Richmond Times-Dispatch that followed up from an article I did in 2014. In this article, I honored my son. And I said I honored him. And I talked about our whole story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I didn't think anybody would ever read this newspaper article. By the time I got home that afternoon, it had 10,000 shares. And today, it has 23,000 shares. What that told me is a lot of people are interested in this subject, and a lot of people are suffering. Last time I talked to Richmond Times-Dispatch, it was the #1 article of this year. Then I knew what I needed to do. So it took me 6 months to write this article. And it was agonizing, heart-wrenching. There were days I would open that file and I would write that article, and I just couldn't do it. So it took me 6 months. Right before it published, I realized how writing was helping me in my grief journey. And I decided to start a blog at amos.com, and I called it Emotionally Naked. In the last 30 days, 70,000 people have been to that blog, and I started it in February. Again, that's how many people are hurting. I get letters all the time from young people that tell me something they read has helped them, and they've decided to go get help. So 6 weeks after I started the blog, I started the Griefheart Project. And it started off being about how I felt in my grief journey. Or it would be something about Charles, something he liked or something he didn't like. But then other people wanted to tell their story. So I had some moms say, I've got this son and I want to tell my story. So I do a grief heart to honor that person that died by suicide. And many times it is the first story they have ever published about what happened to their loved one. So the Grief Heart Project gives people permission to grieve somebody that died by suicide, that died from mental illness. That started to feel really good. I also will do a grief heart on some topic, such as on Memorial Day. I did one for all the soldiers who died from internal battles, also known as suicide. So in doing this and getting those letters, I'm giving back. And when I get a letter from a young person, I get 1 to 3 a week. And the project is literally saving lives. When Lauren logged into my site and she read the final 48 hours, another article I didn't think anybody would ever want to read, she said, "You changed my mind. I never knew it from that point of view." So I would love for you guys to go to animals.com and share these grief hearts and share articles, because they are reaching the young people and they are reaching the moms and the dads. I've been a mental health advocate for 6 years, and it's been swimming upstream the whole time. Now I'm feeling like there is change, like Lauren mentioned earlier. I feel like there is so much going on now. And I feel empowered, and I feel finally I'm allowed to have my grief. And because I think that I'm giving people the opportunity to be open about their grief. They get permission. They can tell their stories. They can share their memories. Because I am proud of my son, Charles Rogers. I am proud that he lived till 20, because I've seen the rap diary he left. And I can see that he was suicidal more than once. And I share some of his music, and I can't share all of it at once, because sometimes I have to hold on to it. Because it's mine for a while, and then I have to share it. Because the young people in particular really connect with that. So I'm developing a high school program, and I feel really good about that. I hope to get a private school that will allow me to launch that. So I really appreciate you guys letting me tell my story today. Oh, this is Cheney. She's 13. And I met this family. I haven't met this family except online. And the girls are, the suicide rate for girls has really gone up by 24%. And it is now the #1 cause of death for 14 to 19-year-old girls worldwide. We have got to start this conversation. We have got to let other people know they are not alone. And the way to do that is to share and discuss and to read and talk to your kids about suicide. You cannot be afraid of that subject. And hopefully, I was invited this past weekend to go speak to legislatures, but it was last minute and I couldn't go. So I hope that I get to go next time. I hope they think of me next time. But this is my passion. I am never doing anything else. I do own a digital marketing firm, so I've been able to use those skills to help promote this project and to promote the blog, and also be a working mother and a grieving mother. And I have to say, this last year, I couldn't have done it without my family and friends and the support I've gotten in Richmond. It really is a very special place, and people have been very open and accepting of my message, and I can't do this alone. I can write the story, but if I'm putting it out there and nobody's sharing it, it's just going to collect server dust. It's not going to reach the ears. So it's the people who are sharing, it's the team effort, it's the collaboration that's gotten this message to many young people and to lots of mothers and to lots of dads. And it might take a while, but that's okay. I'm in this for the long haul. I'm invested my whole life in this now. But suicide can have a happy ending because this is a new chapter for me. And the happy ending is that people are telling me, you saved my life. And that big, huge hole in my heart that I have, it helps fill that because I have to give back. And thank you so much for listening to my story.